For over 6 decades, Clint Eastwood has stood as a monolith in American cinema, an icon of laconic cool, quiet authority, and a singular, uncompromising vision. He built a legend not on bombast, but on a profound, almost Spartan philosophy, efficiency, preparedness, and an unwavering belief in instinct. His sets are famously calm, his directions sparse, his takes few. It's a code born of the old studio system and cemented into Hollywood lore. But what happens when that immutable code meets the turbulent, passionately artistic world of filmmaking? This is not a story of simple feuds, but of deep philosophical divides. 6 professional relationships that fractured over fundamental disagreements on the art of storytelling. These are the collaborations that, in Eastwood's view, challenge the principles he holds sacred, and why they remain, in the landscape of his long memory, truly unforgiven. The first, and perhaps most revealing collision was with Leonardo DiCaprio on the set of J. Edgar in 2010. On paper, it was a dream pairing, Hollywood's most disciplined director and its most intensely dedicated method actor. However, their working styles represented a stark dichotomy. DiCaprio, renowned for his immersive preparation, arrived with binders of historical research, annotated FBI memos, and a deep psychological profile of J. Edgar Hoover. For him, performance was an excavation, a process of endless discovery to unearth a character's truth. Eastwood, in contrast, operates on the principle of first instinct authenticity. He believes if an emotion isn't captured genuinely in the first or second take, it becomes manufactured and loses its power. The tension was not one of personal dislike, but of clashing creative engines. Anecdotes from the set describe a scene where DiCaprio delivered a raw, flawless emotional breakdown in one take. Eastwood, satisfied, called cut. Yet DiCaprio, ever the seeker, requested another take, and another, striving for some elusive nuance. Eastwood reportedly watched, coffee in hand, with a stoic detachment that spoke volumes. The silent message was clear. The search for a perfect take was, to him, a rejection of the initial, truthful moment. The film was completed professionally, but a chasm remained. In the years since, while praising DiCaprio's talent, Eastwood has never sought to reunite. For a director whose creed is doing it once and never wasting another second, the exhaustive process of method acting, however brilliant its results, represents a fundamentally different, and to him, inefficient religion of filmmaking. The rift with documentary filmmaker Michael Moore was of a different, more public nature, rooted not in process, but in principle. The friction began in the early 2000s, stemming from a profound disagreement over tone and respect. Eastwood, a man of old-school discipline and reverence for service, viewed Moore's confrontational, satirical style, particularly in films like Fahrenheit 9/11, as grandstanding that prioritized political point scoring over nuanced discourse. The tension famously surfaced in 2005 when Eastwood, at an awards ceremony, made a stern, deadpan comment about Moore showing up at his door. Many laughed nervously. Eastwood did not. It was a line drawn in the sand. The point of no return came nearly a decade later, following the release of Eastwood's American Sniper. Moore, on social media, drew a controversial comparison between the film's portrayal of a sniper and propaganda themes in Nazi cinema. Regardless of intent, to Eastwood, this crossed an unforgivable line. The film was a solemn, if debated, examination of the cost of war on a soldier's psyche. To have it publicly framed in such inflammatory terms, especially by someone whose approach he already disdained, was seen as a profound disrespect to the subject matter and to the veterans it depicted. Eastwood's response was not a public rebuttal, but a permanent, silent severance. In his world, where honor and respect are paramount, some criticisms are not debated, they are met with absolute, irrevocable disengagement. Moore's name was effectively erased from his professional universe, a testament to Eastwood's belief that some lines, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed. Perhaps the most enduring and icy of Eastwood's professional estrangements is with Barbra Streisand. This feud is the quintessential clash of directorial opposites, a Cold War spanning decades. In the early 1980s, both transitioned from superstar actors to directors, but with diametrically opposed philosophies. Streisand, a legendary perfectionist, was known for exhaustive control, 40, 50, or even 60 takes to capture a single line or expression. Eastwood, the swift pragmatist, famously rarely shoots more than 2 or 3. To him, her method represented everything antithetical to genuine performance. It was overthinking, vanity, and the death of spontaneous instinct. Their quiet contempt simmered for years in industry circles. It reportedly boiled over around the 1990 Oscars when Streisand was famously omitted from the Best Director nominations for The Prince of Tides. Eastwood was overheard, musing to a colleague that if she made decisions faster, she might complete more films, a comment that sealed her view of him as dismissively sexist. The symbolic battleground became the Bridges of Madison County. Streisand was long attached to direct and star, but left the project after years of development. Eastwood then swooped in, directed it with his signature quiet efficiency, and delivered a critically acclaimed hit that earned Meryl Streep an Oscar nomination. His success with the project she couldn't realize was seen as the ultimate vindication of his philosophy over hers. There was no public spat, just a deep, frozen silence. They have meticulously avoided each other ever since. For Eastwood, Streisand became the archetype of a creatively paralyzing self-indulgence. He has spent a lifetime avoiding. Her name is rarely uttered by him, a permanent ghost in the machine of his career. The collaboration with Tommy Lee Jones on In the Line of Fire, 1993, was a collision of two natural forces, a duel of alphas. Initially, their pairing as co-stars was electrifying, but behind the camera, a struggle for creative sovereignty emerged. Jones, a fiercely intelligent and intensely committed actor, is known for his own formidable process, often staying deeply in character and questioning lines and motivations. Eastwood, also the director, ran his set with the quiet, efficient, almost invisible hand. The tension was not about talent, both profoundly respected the other's abilities, but about control and the sanctity of the director's chair. Reports from the set describe Jones continuing to perform aggressively even after cut was called, locking eyes with Eastwood in a manner that blurred the line between character confrontation and actorly challenge. Eastwood, who values a respectful, time-conscious set above all, reportedly viewed this as unnecessary theater. The message was internalized but clear. There was only room for one captain on this ship. The film was a success, and their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, but the experience was singular. When casting directors later suggested Jones for Eastwood-directed projects, the answer was a firm, polite refusal. The professional judgment was that they did not speak the same language. In Eastwood's world, an efficient, harmonious set is non-negotiable, and any dynamic that threatens that harmony, regardless of the artistic payoff, is not worth repeating. The experience with Richard Burton on Where Eagles Dare, 1968, was a formative lesson for the young Eastwood in the perils of unprofessionalism. At the time, Eastwood was a rising TV star transitioning to film. Burton was a Shakespearean titan in the tumultuous throes of his marriage to Elizabeth Taylor and his well-documented personal struggles. The conflict was starkly simple, a clash of work ethic. Eastwood, disciplined and always prepared, would arrive on set at dawn, ready to work. Burton, plagued by personal demons, would sometimes arrive late, unprepared, and visibly affected by the previous night's indulgences. Eastwood, a man who believes every film, even a grand adventure like Where Eagles Dare, deserves full commitment, watched with growing, silent contempt as takes were ruined and schedules were pressured. He reportedly made a dry, pointed comment about being paid by the picture, not by the hour, which cut through the set's tension. The final insult, in Eastwood's eyes, was the suggestion that the film was merely a paycheck job for someone who approaches every role with seriousness. This was a cardinal sin. The film was a commercial hit, but the relationship was irrevocably damaged. In later years, when asked, Eastwood's assessment was terse and telling. Talented guy, wasted talent. It was a harsh epitaph from a man whose entire career is a testament to the disciplined harnessing of talent. Burton served as a lifelong example, Eastwood, of what he was determined not to become. The final rupture, with actress Jean Seberg on the set of the musical Paint Your Wagon 1969, was a painful lesson in the volatility of mixing professional duty with personal sympathy. Seberg, a talented but tragically fragile figure, was under immense personal strain, including notorious FBI harassment due to her political activism. On set, her behavior was unpredictable, charming one day, emotionally unavailable, and locked in her trailer the next. Eastwood, the consummate professional, found his patience stretched to its limit by what he perceived as a lack of discipline and an inability to separate personal turmoil from professional responsibility. The real betrayal, however, came after the film notoriously flopped. Seberg gave interviews subtly suggesting that Eastwood's wooden performance had contributed to the failure. For Eastwood, who had endured the chaotic production with stoic professionalism, this public criticism from a co-star was a profound breach of loyalty and the code of the company. It transformed his frustration into a permanent cold dismissal. He never worked with her again and, according to associates, would shut down any conversation about her. Her tragic death a decade later was met with his characteristic public silence, though friends indicated private sadness. The Seberg experience crystallized a core tenet of Eastwood's professional life. The set is a workplace for focused collaboration, not a therapy session. Emotional volatility that compromises the work is one thing. Publicly blaming a collaborator for failure is an unforgivable transgression. In conclusion, the stories of these 6 collaborators, DiCaprio, Moore, Streisand, Jones, Burton, and Seberg, are not mere gossip. They are illuminating chapters in the biography of an artistic mind. They reveal a man for whom filmmaking is governed by an unshakable code. Efficiency is respect. Preparation is duty. Instinct is truth. And the sanctity of the set is paramount. Those who violated these principles, whether through endless takes, public disrespect, chaotic behavior, or a challenge to his authority, were not just personally dismissed, they were professionally exiled. Clint Eastwood's silence is his most powerful weapon, and his memory is a long, unforgiving ledger. In the end, these clashes force us to ask a question about artistic creation. Is the pursuit of a personal, uncompromising vision worth the cost of burned bridges? For Clint Eastwood, the answer, written in the quiet success of his decades-long career, has always been a resounding and silent yes.